The White House does not want you to see a very sickly looking leaked photo of Donald Trump. But you also don't want to see it because unfortunately it is confirmation that he's not dead. But the weird thing is he doesn't look very alive either in this hunched, gross, uncomfortable kind of shriveled up, limping photo of Trump. And it comes as two things are happening that make the White House crazy. One, a very prominent doctor is sharing a dementia diagnosis of Donald Trump that clearly has MAGA spiraling. But two, MAGA spiraling specifically from the White House attacking journalists, attacking reporters just losing their mind, that the fact that Donald Trump might be in the hospital was trending yesterday. It is only making us believe the signs of his cognitive decline are as bad as they are. They're doing more damage. And that's where I want to start with the White House freaking out over our questions before we get to that dementia diagnosis and, of course, the terrible photo of a very sickly Trump. White House melts down for second day in a row over Trump health claims. The White House is lashing out again over questions about Donald Trump's health amid his days-long absence from the public eye. A day after angrily pushing back against unfounded rumors that the 79-year-old president was hospitalized at Walter Reed Medical Center, the White House swung back into damage control mode on Sunday, fixating on a day-old post pointing out that Trump has not made any public appearances since his rambling address on the war with Iran on Wednesday. Trump has not been seen publicly since his primetime speech on Wednesday, 72 hours and counting, despite the fact that he hasn't left, DC independent journalist Aaron Ruper wrote on Twitter. Day Twitter, Saturday evening. "No, you're just a sick freak, Aaron," the White House's rapid response account replied Aaron. He was commanding one of the most daring rescue operations in modern history, executed with the precise force and might only our great military can deliver. Rupa shot back. "Actually, yes, my post was and remains entirely factual no matter what the White House claims." White House Press Secretary Carolyn Leavitt also went on the defensive on Sunday, sharing a post by Fox News contributor who railed against the left in response to a roundup of Twitter posts speculating about the president's health. Ari wrote, while Trump, Hegseth, and the entire military were working, this is what the left was doing, fantasizing that Trump was in the hospital. Yeah, I was fantasizing that Trump was in the hospital. I was very deeply saddened actually when I saw the photo of the disgusting human being that is our president barely holding himself together. Because I was like, damn, not dead. What a shame. But like I said, he's not really alive. And in the fact that Donald Trump, the Carolyn Lewis is saying that Donald Trump was orchestrating this military effort. The man can barely stay awake, right? And that's why Vin Gupta's diagnosis of Donald Trump's mental state is so important to understanding this photo. Ms. Now medical analyst Dr. Vin Gupta claims Trump has all the signs of dementia. Ms. Now senior medical analyst Dr. Vin Gupta believes that Donald Trump is showing all the signs of dementia. Gupta wrote on Twitter Sunday, "Erratic, can't finish sentences, often confused, illogical train of thought, word-finding difficulties, developing and worsening gradually over time. The president is exhibiting all the signs of dementia." Of course, Donald Trump made the concerns about his cognitive decline worse when he says Tuesday will be power plant day and bridge day all wrapped up into one in Iran. There will be nothing like it. Open the fucking strait, you crazy bastards, or you will be living in hell. Praise be to Allah, President Donald J. Trump. The post caused politicians, the president to question the president's sanity and fitness for office. Former Republican Marjorie Taylor Greene implored Congress to intervene in Trump's madness. "I know all of you and him, and he has gone insane, and all of you are complicit." Meanwhile, Democrats have ramped up their own calls for the 25th Amendment to be used on Trump. So, yeah, he's a madman, and we know that. And his cognitive decline has only gotten worse and worse and worse. That is what we are seeing from Donald Trump. He is barely alive. He is being popped it around. They have had to read his executive orders to him since day one in this administration because Donald Trump doesn't know what's happening. Project 2025 wasn't just written, so Republicans would have a perfect plan of how to break our country, but because they knew Donald Trump wouldn't be able to execute anything himself. That's why it's laughable that Carolyn Lewis claims were that Donald Trump was overseeing this entire military operation. Donald Trump gets a 2-minute compilation of shit blowing up as his insights into this war. He doesn't understand it. He doesn't understand shit. All he does is golf and eat Big Macs and post. And that's partly why he looked so bad in this photo. His proof of life. Hunched Trump 79 seen after AIDS address. Health claims a poorly postured Donald Trump briefly surfaced on Sunday after several days away from public view. Sparked wild speculation about his health. The White House had earlier been forced to push back against unfounded rumors that the 79-year-old president was hospitalized at Walter Reed Medical Center. Trump has not made a public appearance since his rambling address on his war with Iran on Wednesday. Here you can see Donald Trump entering the White House, hunched over. It looks like he's limping, that he's kind of hobbled. He just has like weird turtle posture. He doesn't look good. He looks sickly and flushed and black. It's just not a good look. And again, you can see Donald Trump in the beast right here. And it's funny to note that the text on his phone is gigantic. People have long speculated that Donald Trump needs glasses, and that's why he can't read speeches. Well, so just an interesting note there. On Sunday, photographer Nathan Howard captured the president returning to the White House following a short visit to his Virginia golf club. The image shows him appearing visibly hunched, dressed in golf attire and, as we saw, clutching his phone. So Trump doesn't look great. If that's your proof of life, then you kind of look dead. And Donald Trump does look dead, and he sounds dead, and he acts dead. And it has been his own personal feeling that the presidency is the only thing keeping him alive, which I think should trouble us all deeply, especially when Donald Trump remarked at the beginning of his term that if he just started a war that was happening during an election, well, maybe we couldn't make that election happen. And that's why it baffles me. And I saw a comment from you all recently that said, Jack, don't just call out the Democrats and Congress. Call out Republicans as well. Yes, of course, but, I expect a little bit more agency from Democrats. Republicans are all in a cult. And I would hope that members of our party aren't as much, and they can think critically and maybe respond to some of my criticism, but nobody, all of that to say, should be voting for any increased funding of Donald Trump's war. Any funding at all, not a dime. And this idea that is turning our backs on the troops, it's just so misplaced thinking to me. Troops don't want to go die for Israel, right? Nobody should die for Israel. No American should die for Israel. Our money shouldn't be spent. So more Americans can die for Israel. How many Americans are going to die? Because they won't be able to afford food or gas or whatever it may be. The rising price of all commodities. Because Israel dragged us into this war. That is a death count that we're also not going to talk about because this is Israel's war. So anyone who died from starvation, who died because they didn't have electricity, any number of things, it's because of Israel. Let's be very honest. Of course, it's because Israel has largely been able to either buy or blackmail members of our government from the top to the bottom. And so sure, they're all complicit. And that has to stop. And we'll talk about that every single day on the show. No matter how many times fucking freaks decide that we're anti-Semitic for criticizing a parasitic relationship with a terrorist state, that we don't need to be sending bombs to offensive or defensive. Let's make that very clear. But yeah, Donald Trump doesn't look very good. I'd say he's verging on dead. And the White House is going to freak out and say, we can't ask these questions, we shouldn't say anything. It's ridiculous. It's the radical left or the radical left. What's so radical about asking whether the president is alive? Have we ever had to do that with anybody else? Like truly, as much as anyone wanted to spin up, Joe Biden cognitive decline. Joe Biden doesn't know where he is. Joe Biden. Did Fox ever run a segment in which they had to ask, is Joe Biden dead? Were there any long periods of time where we didn't see Joe Biden alive? Were there 96-hour stretches? It's like, no, they'd say, oh, Joe Biden. Oh, he fell off his bike. I fucking fallen off my bike. I'm 23 years old. Oh, Joe fell asleep in the middle of a UN summit, fell asleep in class. Probably not the same reason. Joe probably wasn't partying all night. So you raise all the questions, but nobody asked if he died, and nobody in the White House had to get defensive asking questions. If we ask questions about him dying, right? It's completely different. And the fact that they're so incensed by it means that it gets under their skin and they really know that we're observing it. And it's so funny given the fact that mainstream media barely does. Like, imagine how angry Carolyn Levitt would walk around if anyone actually asked questions about Donald Trump's health. If it wasn't only once in a while someone asked a real question. And if someone asked a pointed question, a really pointed question to Donald Trump with some level of accusatory certainty. Mr. President, how do you feel that people keep saying that you have dementia? How do you respond to questions that you have all the signs that point to dementia? Nobody asked those questions. They would ask that type of question. Joe Biden, Fox certainly would, Peter Doocy would every day. And yet we don't have reporters when Donald Trump is in very deep cognitive decline asking him questions like that. They refuse to do so. And in that way, they are doing us a disservice. Because right now we have a president of the United States who is engaged in a war that he doesn't understand because his advisors, his handlers won't give him real updates because they don't think he can digest them. And he is posting out of control, making things worse. Sharing clips of his war crimes, excited about war crimes, likely because of the problems that exist in his brain. And the mainstream press doesn't seem to think that that is important to press on, to ask more about. That is a massive failure. That is a massive failure. I don't know what could be more of a failure than that. And the fact that the White House gets so incensed when you ask them, it just makes you think, maybe I should push on this a little bit more, right? If they get really mad at you for asking those questions, don't you think you should ask more of those questions? Isn't that kind of your job? But they don't want to do that. And so it's not me putting on the tinfoil hat or being a conspiracy theorist by doing so. I just think that's our job. It is our job to fill in the gaps that the mainstream media has left behind because they are plentiful, right? And right now, you also see them do a lot of cover for Donald Trump on his war. Donald Trump wasn't part of a historic military operation. It was a historic military operation. A huge kudos to the United States military for being able to find and extract pilots who were shot down. But they only were because we started a war we never should have been in. And the fact that that is not the framing again is a failure by our mainstream media. But that's what our mainstream media does. They fail consistently again and again and again. It's why there has been a rise in independent media. It is why this is so important. And so if I may, at the end of this video, give a cheap plug, we are getting close to 1.5 million subscribers. I'd love to be able to hit that soon. So do make sure you're subscribed if you want to support the show in another way. Subscribing to my Substack, becoming a paid subscriber, best way to support the show. Please also subscribe for free because I'm putting stuff out there. I want to be able to communicate in different ways. Follow me on Instagram as well at @JDCottarella. I felt a little fucking shitty today. I woke up with a nice sore throat, some congestion, so my voice may sound terrible. I may not be as energized, but I can let you all know I have been pissed all week. And I am pissed on your behalf, and we should all be fucking furious and holding people to account. And I can promise rain or shine, my voice sounds terrible, strep throat, whatever it may be, or feeling great. I'm gonna be pissed, we're gonna be pissed, we're gonna hold people accountable. And if you want to support that, I just gave you a couple ways you can, and I really appreciate it. Keep on fighting, y'all. Don't let him silence you. I love you all dearly. Donald Trump has dementia. The media needs to call it out. And until next time, I'll see you soon.